Neon Prime is an interesting one because it's Valve's next big game, but it's something that appears to not have a direct connection to an IP. Valve has, for the last 20 years, been working on video games in recognizable properties. Neon Prime more than likely takes place in the extended Half-Life universe, akin to how Portal is connected to Half-Life. However, on face value, it's entirely its own thing. In the latest Counter-Strike 2 update, the one that brought Arms Race and the first major update that Counter-Strike 2 saw since they released Counter-Strike 2 to the public in September of last year, there was a lot that we could data mine. You know the drill. You dig through the diff checker, you try and see what strings were accidentally left within the build by Valve software, and then you compare them against your prior knowledge so that you can come up with some sort of speculative idea of what Valve is currently working on. This so well the first time, we're doing it again. This video is sponsored by Wanted Dead. Wanted Dead is one of those video games that harkens back to a simpler time. Back when you could buy a video game and play that video game and enjoy that video game. Remember the Xbox 360? Gear up for an epic adventure in Wanted Dead. Prepare for this action-packed hybrid slasher shooter and let the chaos begin. Wanted Dead is available on PC with both Steam and Epic Game Store listings, the PlayStation 4 and 5, as well as the Xbox Series consoles and the Xbox One. This is one of 2023's wildest experiences that a lot of the viewers have likely overlooked, and therefore they shouldn't miss the chance to grab it now. By the way, Wanted Dead recently received a new patch, which brings significant improvements in performance via DLSS, along with FSR support. Additionally, this update introduces support for Steam Cloud Saves, a statistics menu for easier tracking of achievements and trophies, and more patches and updates are on the way. And right now you can pick up Wanted Dead for 67% off, and the sale will be active until February 28th on PlayStation. The price on Xbox and PC has been significantly adjusted as well. Get the game now using my link in the description. Water shaking and water shaking. Water shaking. Might have something to do with the Half-Life Alyx bottle water shader. Massive amounts of hair rendering. Valve has always had some sort of rope physics within Source 2, leveraging that system, pushing that system significantly forward. Each individual strand is separated into segments, which can then be used to be able to properly simulate its physics and it moving while whatever character it's connected to is moving as well. Smart Props is a system that allows Valve to dynamically place objects within the world each time a map is loaded, placing those props systematically to save time through map development. There's a lot of interesting dynamic model work being done here. It may have something to do with Valve's work also in voxel-based destruction within levels of one of their upcoming games. And of course, Pulse. We pushed forward the speculation 2 or 3 years ago that Pulse was a project name of a game. As it turns out, it's a project name for a piece of software that Valve is developing, itself akin to Unreal Engine's Blueprint system. It is a visual-based developer that allows individuals to create custom logic, game modes, etc., that are actually written in JavaScript. Arms Race and Deathmatch were both completely rewritten from scratch in JavaScript, presumably using Valve's own proprietary Pulse tools. Those tools do exist out in the Counter-Strike 2 toolset, but we have no documentation, so in order for anybody to use it, you would have to figure it out your damn self. Tracking of loudness of events and NPCs reacting to said loudness, as well as some Counter-Strike 2 specific leaks such as Paintable Gloves, Safe House, and Lake being the next 2 Arms Race maps that Valve is set to release, as well as a new main menu background that did not ship but is currently sitting in some reference files called Warehouse Space. HLX, Valve's next Half-Life game that seems to be leveraging some of Half-Life Alyx's developments and creating a mechanical evolution of those, has been referenced for the first time since December of 2022, related to sound properties. HLX could very well be the name of some back-end engine that Valve is developing as an evolution mechanically to Half-Life Alyx. HLX could literally just be the codename for the tools. The evolution and the development of those mechanics further than what they were in Half-Life Alyx does lend credence to the idea that Valve is developing something in virtual reality for the distant future. Remember, the Valve Deckard, which is Valve's next flagship VR headset, and Valve's next quote-unquote flagship VR title are years away. Valve's main concern right now is getting Counter-Strike 2 up to a point where it's actually playable. Whether or not they're doing a good job is up for interpretation, and shipping Neon Prime, aka Citadel. A large number of people are working on this game and a lot of stuff is being developed. You've probably seen the ambient NPC manager itself using new model of a Houndeye as its icon. This is a specific tool that allows developers to dynamically place different locations where NPCs can spawn as set dressing. The Houndeye being on the icon is a good example. It shows wildlife life that you would see in the outskirts of a map, possibly in an out-of-bounds area of a Houndeye grazing. Yes, this Houndeye model is new. We don't know what it's from. Counter-Strike 2 and Counter-Strike Global Offensive do not use NPCs in the traditional sense. The closest thing are the AI bots, but as far as the game is concerned, those are legitimate players being simulated client-side. Dozens and dozens of references to NPCs. NPCs in different attack states, ability states, body types, body groups, parameters for animation sequences, randomization of animation sequences, etc. are all within the files, and all of those are for Neon Prime. Neon Prime, of course, is a competitive, team-based, class-based, third-person shooter taking place somewhere in distant space with humanoid NPCs and humanoid playable characters. Those classes have different abilities. The game has many MOBA elements. Lanes and a mini-map, neutrals and jungles are part of the game, but it's all dressed up in a far more competitive shooter video game. It is heavily rumored that Valve is attempting to bring together all of their major fan bases into a game that tries to be the best of all three worlds. The tone and the characters of Team Fortress 2 spiritually are being pushed into Neon Prime. The competitive, realistic combat with realistic weaponry, even though it's far into the future, is brought in from Counter-Strike. And the MOBA elements, again, neutrals, lanes, creeps, etc., is being brought in from Dota 2. Characters have abilities. Those abilities have cooldowns. Players can gather items, craft items, take on creeps, gain currency, and use that to be able to power up their own character within the confines of that specific game. Games are to take place over a longer period of time, akin to a MOBA, and this game is pushing forward a lot of different ideas. Destructible environments, many different places in the game itself to visit using a train system to travel from point A to point B in different quote-unquote biomes of the said map. The map is large, so large and separated into different chunks that you have to take a transportation system in order to get from one point to another. It is unknown if you can traverse on foot from these different areas or if the train is really just that important. Stylistically, the game is taking some inspiration from the ideas of cassette futurism, even though that term is an umbrella one that could be anything from frickin' Akira all the way to Alien Isolation, so that is up in the air. You ever see Starship Troopers? At least that was our understanding until only a day ago. I'm recording this after finishing the entire video, and we have new information. Valve may have reinvented Neon Prime with a different art style in response to similarly styled games not doing so hot in the industry as a whole. Up until this point, the prevailing rumors stated that Neon Prime was a hard science cassette futuristic take on sci-fi third-person shooters. That said, it seems as if many artists have either left Valve or changed teams. And we now have word that Neon Prime could be fantasy, ancient items, heavy advertising, multi-dimensional universes. Something appears to have happened at Valve and in the Neon Prime team over the last few months. This of course calls into question delays, changes in the artists on the team possibly affecting the team structure, changes in management. This project seems to have gone through a pretty seismic shift. I really have no idea where we're at in terms of release date. This is following Valve's normal pattern of developing a game, realizing in the 11th hour that they don't like it, and then reinventing it and shipping it out the door. And this time, it's a complete stylistic overhaul, which is new for them. So I'm gonna let the rest of the video play out as normal, but just know, new information has been coming to light that seems to point towards this being a more hard, realistic fantasy set in the future, instead of being a hard, cassette futuristic sci-fi game. Weaponry has attachments, secondary and tertiary weapons, such as handguns, grenades, throwables, although the types of weapons, types of abilities, and exactly what you're doing from point A to point B depends on the class that you have picked. Some characters are far more direct control, while others are far more like a commander directing a larger group of NPCs. Those NPCs all have their own abilities, body locations, types of combat, different enemies that each NPC sees as said enemy, different conditions to gather NPCs, the relationships between the NPCs and how those relationships relate to automatic behavior in combat and idle. NPCs have the ability to glide. NPCs are able to steer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think in this circumstance the term steering is related to vehicles, as we've heard that there aren't that many vehicles in Neon Prime for characters to use from point A to point B aside from the train, so the vehicles themselves might be related to something else. NPCs have different related information, such as the squads that they're a part of, the slots that they hold on their body, and the types of primary and secondary attack cooldowns. Each NPC has a different range of visibility and range of attack based on both the type of NPC that they are, the weapons that the NPCs are carrying, and the attachments that the NPCs are utilizing on both the weapons and their being. And the NPCs themselves come in many different flavors, but mechanically speaking, it really just comes down to enemies and allies. Are you capable of turning enemies into allies and vice versa? I don't know, but they are strewn without the world. They are your neutrals, and exactly how the characters within this game are said to interact with these NPCs, these neutrals, is up in the air. You're seeing all the information I have. I'm trying to explain this the best that I can. I'm Tyler McVicker, the Passionate Gamer. Thank God I finally got this video done. If you want to support this kind of stuff, I have a Patreon and Floatplane. This stuff is hard. Data mining and update takes days. I look through every single frickin' file. It takes way too long. But if you like these kinds of videos, maybe think about supporting them. Patreon, Floatplane down in the description below. Follow my X profile, and my Discord server link is also down in the description below. I'm Tyler McVicker, the Passionate Gamer. Thank you so much for putting up with me, being patient with me. But here's my fun information. Now I'm gonna go back in my cave for 2 months. Peace and hair grease. I'll talk to y'all later. Adios.